How are you today? I'm president of the ABS-CBN lifestyle ecosystem. We cater to upscale males, upscale females, and millennials. And we noticed during the course of our research with our target markets that mental health was a very, very key issue. It's like everybody we talked to, every target market, they always talked about mental health. Just to give an example, my driver, his wife had a sari-sari store, and he went home one day, and then there was a big commotion because a young girl went to the sari-sari store and purchased Ovaltine from his wife, and then mixed it with silver polish remover, and then she drank it. And then when my driver came over, her mouth was bubbling, and they asked, what happened, and she passed away. They found the suicide note, and in the suicide note it said that please take, I love my mom, I love my family, I love my boyfriend, please take care of my brothers and sisters. She just broke up with her boyfriend just broke up with her, and she lost hope. And it's so common. Even in one of the companies we have, a very high level executive jumped out of the building, and these things happen. And when I talk to guidance counselors in colleges and high schools, what I heard is they're all swamped. They don't know what to do. There's so much depression. There's so much suicide. They don't know. There's not enough people to help. I'll ask you guys a question. Our country has 100 million people. Guess how many psychiatrists we have for 100 million people? Anyone want to take a wild guess? We have 500 psychiatrists to take care of 100 million people. It's such a small number. There's not enough psychotherapists, not enough psychiatrists, not enough psychologists to take care of the need. Why is this? Because just ask yourself, in the past, if somebody sees a psychiatrist, what will you say? Ano ka, sira ulo? Diba? May kulang-kulang ka ba? What's wrong with you? Why don't you just talk to your friends? It used to be taboo to talk to a psychiatrist or to a psychotherapist, but nowadays it's so common because people need it. I want to tell you 3 short stories which I hope will give you hope, so that you know that no matter how bad any mental health condition may be, no matter how bad any health condition may be, that there is hope. I'd like to start with the story of my own son. Oops, here. So that's my son, Nathan. He's currently 17 years old, and about 6 years ago, his name was, we used to call him Blade, because we liked the movie of Wesley Snipes, Blade, vampire killer. I couldn't even tell him why his name was his name, kasi how can you tell a 4-year-old you're named after a vampire killer? But anyway, my son, from a very early age, was diagnosed with ADHD. And the first indication we had of his issue was he was in kindergarten, and he bit all his classmates. Kinagat niya lahat, 100% kinagat lahat. And my wife was, worried, because many of those children were children of our friends. And she immediately put him into occupational therapy. And we noticed he had problems focusing. He was very hyper. With parents like Gina and I, it should be expected. But he was very, very hyper. He had trouble articulating his feelings, so he would use his hands. He would use his mouth. And, we put him in a good school. We put him in Beacon, and they gave many allowances for his condition. He had a special teacher helping him. But by the time he hit grade 6, things were coming to a head. Nahihirapan na siya. The classmates, some of my friends had children also in Beacon, and they would tell me they would see Nathan at the time he was called Blade, just sitting outside of the classroom of his school, sitting outside the classroom on the floor crying. And he was always being sent to the principal's office because he would always get into problems. He had behavioral problems. He would be unruly. He'd disrupt the class. He was intelligent, but he had trouble emotionally and he had trouble mentally, adjusting. So I will forever be thankful and grateful to my wife because she recommended that he be moved to a different school. We moved him to Acacia Waldorf in Santa Rosa, and it was the best decision we ever made for him because when he moved to this school, within 6 months, he was off his medications. After we got him diagnosed for ADHD, the doctor said he needs to take medication to focus. He was taking, I think, Abilify and Concerta, but I didn't like the side effects. He had glassy eyes. He was like a zombie, and it's like, where's my son? And he when he would have tantrums, it's like he would say, I want to kill myself. I'm going to get a knife and stab myself. And it really would worry me. So I'm so grateful that when he went to this school, after 6 months, he wasn't taking meds anymore. 0. And I was wondering, what happened? What happened to this boy? He was around, I think about 12 at the time. And there's a picture missing here. Oh, well, that's a picture of us. We attended the ABS Star Magic Ball before. But there's a picture here that's missing. It's a picture of his teacher. His teacher's name is Ernie Aranas. And let's just go back here. His teacher was so patient with him. He would run out of class and just walk out of class. And sometimes he'd walk off campus. And he even, a guard lost his job because my son walked off campus and the guard wasn't able to restrain him. And my son would climb up a tree, and the teacher would walk there and talk to him. And this teacher, she showed him unconditional love. And for me, if you forget everything I said today, don't forget what really heals our minds and our hearts. In my opinion, it's really unconditional love. And this teacher, Ernie Aranas, showed that to my son. He knew there was somebody who would never give up on him, who always had his back, who would be patient with him, and who would just love him unconditionally. And currently he's in Canada. He's going to he just got accepted into boarding school in Brentwood. Maybe after about 6 months or 10 months in that school, his doctor said he no longer exhibits signs of having ADHD. And his ADHD, however, actually helped him. It was a blessing because he knew it would take him 3 hours to do the work that others could do in 1 hour. Because of that, he had to budget his time well. He learned how to budget his time. He learned how to work hard. He had to work 3 times harder than all of his other classmates. So he learned the value of hard work. And because of that, he had this really good work ethic. And buo yung loob niya eh. That teacher really, really helped him. And he applied to this boarding school. I didn't know if he would get in. He took the aptitude test. He took the interview and he passed. He got in. And when I talked to him, I said, how's school? He said, it's fine. Is it hard for you to adjust? He said, no, it was harder in Manila. And I said, what subjects are you having trouble with? And he said, math. He said, I never did graphs and they're asking me to do graphs here. Then when I got his grades, I looked at his grades for math, 100. Sabi ko, ibang klaseng bata na to. I'm just so happy and proud of him because he's had to overcome so much. But if you knew him before, you would realize how far he's come. And even with the boy who has ADHD, he still has it, but he has learned how to manage it. And he doesn't even need, in his particular case, he doesn't need medication. My next story is about my sister Marissa and her husband Beat. He's a Swiss guy. All the stories are about my family. Baka isipin nyo, may topak talagang pamilya na to. Lahat sila may sayad. Medyo. My sister, I asked her permission. And I also asked my son his permission before I could tell this story. He said yes. And so I asked my sister if I could tell her story, and she also agreed. My sister is bipolar, and she's had it ever since she was young. Her whole life, I remember her having this condition. She would always get depressed. Nagkukulong lang siya sa kwarto, magbabasa siya, tapos kakain ng sopas, and then won't come out of the room. I've known her to be that way her whole life. When she feels bad, she gets depressed, just stays in her room, drinks soup, and won't come out. And over the years, it would get even worse. We take a family vacation, siguro 5 days yung family vacation namin, and then by the second day, ayaw na niya lumabas ng kwarto. Ayaw na magpakita. Doesn't want to show anyone her face. But I noticed something happening within the last 2 years. She's now 63 years old. In the last few years, I noticed a difference. I said, Marissa, what happened to you? You're different. How come you seem to be managing your depression so much better now, your bipolar condition? And she told me several things that she did. Before all of the things she did, the number one though is her husband Beat. Her husband Beat, I love this man because he loves my sister unconditionally. It's very difficult to live with someone who has a bipolar condition, but this man, have you guys watched Despicable Me? Mr. Gru? That's him. He talks like that guy, he acts like that guy. If you listen to him talk, he sounds like Mr. Gru, and he even looks like him. And he has the same personality. He'll say, "Oh, children, go in the middle of the street, play in the cars. Go ahead." You know, it's like that. But he loves my sister unconditionally, and that's the number one ingredient. You know, it's that unconditional love. Next, she told me she stopped drinking. She used to drink a lot, and she said, when I stopped drinking, then nothing was interfering with her medications anymore. She takes meds for her bipolar condition. And she says that substance abuse really conflicts with her medication. So she stopped drinking. Number two, she started exercising. She started going on hikes. She started dancing. And, you know, it improved her mood. And last of all, she renewed her relationship with God. And she said the combination of all of these things really helped her. She said, you know, Ernie, I'm already 63. I only learned this a few years ago. I hit the magic formula a few years ago, but I'm so happy because I'm showing you the mental health issue of my son who's 17 and he had this his whole life. My sister, she's 63. No matter how young you are, no matter how old you are, no matter how bad the situation might look, there's really still always hope. The last story I'll tell you is about myself. They don't have a picture of me when I was younger. Ito na lang, mukhang okay ako dyan. When I was 17 years old, I had a nervous breakdown. I asked my psychotherapist, what's the technical term for this? They said it's temporary psychosis. When I was 17, I felt so overwhelmed and so hopeless and so truly overwhelmed with my world. I couldn't accept the reality of my life at that moment in time. And my mind snapped. My mind snapped and I created my own reality. I just made my own fantasy world. Because I couldn't accept the world I was living in, I made my own fantasy world. And I am so thankful. Wala pang Instagram, wala pang Facebook. You know, because no one could take my picture when this happened to me. I did so many crazy things when this happened to me. Just to give you an example of some of the things I did when I lost my mind. How many of you have been to San Francisco? Okay. You know those streetcar tunnels? I was so far gone. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating. I wasn't thinking straight. I walked inside the streetcar tunnels. I'd walk inside, and then in the streetcar tunnels, they're like little doorways. Little, parang may nicho. I would stand in the doorway when the train would pass, and I would say, they have eyes, but they do not see. You know, and I would just keep on walking along inside. I was put in a psychiatric unit. Yung straight jacket, I had a straight jacket put on me. And they checked me into the Langley Porter Psychiatric Unit in San Francisco. And the medications they gave me were so strong because my mind was racing so fast that they had to sedate me. The medications were so strong, I didn't know what time it was. I didn't know what day it was. And how many of you like watching, what's that show, Walking Dead, Living Dead? You guys like that show? Do you know why zombies walk like that? I found out. When you're on that heavily sedated, that's how you walk. I used to walk like this. I didn't swing my arms anymore because of the medication. The medication was so strong that I couldn't even think. I couldn't form a sentence. And the most humiliating experience I had while I was having this, while I was recovering and going through all of this nervous breakdown was my parents invited some friends over for lunch. I was out of the hospital already. I was in the hospital for about a month straight in a locked door unit. I was put in a padded cell, but there were no pads in this cell. It was locked. And after a month, I came out. They took me to lunch. They invited their friends, and their friends brought their daughter. And I had a crush on this daughter of my friends, and I was like, of all the times for them to invite this girl to have lunch with us, I was at my worst. This is what I look like. You could ask me questions and I would answer, but that's it. Like, what's your name? Ernie. Are you okay today? I couldn't even answer that question. I was at my absolute worst, and my parents brought me to lunch with their friends, with the daughter. When you see a girl that you like, you want to be at your best. Here I am at my absolute worst. For me, that was the bottom of my experience. It's the worst part for me. Because here I am at my very worst when I wanted to be my very best. And it was so humiliating. But the good thing about all of this is after about 6 months, I came back to my senses. I was under medication, and I saw a psychotherapist, and my mind healed. And I used to ask myself, God, why did you allow me to have this kind of an experience? And that's a question I had for maybe 3 decades, 30 years. I'd ask again and again. I said, Lord, bakit ganyan? Why did you? I felt like you abandoned me. Why did you let me have that kind of an experience? And I think the answer is so that I could stand in front of you here today and let you know, no matter how bad these experiences can be, there really is hope. You can heal, you can change, you can still have a productive life. And, I've been talking with my psychotherapist for this particular one. I've seen her for like 4 years. I still get depressed every once in a while. Last week, I was very depressed. A few days ago, I was very depressed. But the beauty about all of this is, nowadays, there are psychotherapists you can talk to. There are support groups. There are things you can do. I've been taught certain processes, and I've been equipped, so I know how to deal with these kind of things. In our country right now, the need is so overwhelming. My psychotherapist, I don't know if she here now. Is her husband here now? Oh, the husband is there. She asked me, Ernie, what are we going to do about the National Mental Health Agenda? And we started talking and we started discussing. What we came up with is this. You don't have to be a doctor to do first aid. But you take first aid certification and you can perform first aid. In our country right now, there are not enough people to address the mental health issues we all have. I am trying to put together an organization that will certify people to do a mental first aid. And Tani, can you stand up? Tani is the husband of my psychotherapist, Zenya Panahon. He's going to have a sign-up sheet. If any of you want to volunteer and get certified, she's the one to talk to. He'll have the sign-up sheet there, because I think that mental health is something that we all have to do something about. I guarantee that every single person in this room has a friend or a relative who has a mental health issue, and we need to do our part to help. And I'm just so thankful because, in the case of my son, my sister, and myself, I experienced so much unconditional love. I got the unconditional love of my family, my friends. I had good psychotherapists, and they really, really helped me. And I hope, and it is my challenge to all of you, to also partake in addressing the mental health issues of our country. Thank you very much.